We have three parts that are non-conforming and suspect to be counterfeit. A non-conformance could be as simple as a paperwork error, or you could have a misspelling in your accompanying documentation, or a label might not match the PO, or something may simply not look right to your eye. You could be dealing with a color variation or a weight discrepancy. Any of these could set off a non-conformance issue. The first step would be to quarantine this part. This would entail physically moving the part to a secure location where it can be further investigated. In our example, we will be utilizing a secure quarantine shelf. Once an item reaches a quarantine state, you will want to investigate the part to either clear the nonconformance or declare it as counterfeit. We will demonstrate the following three scenarios. Our first shipment contains a nonconformance, however it's only a partial nonconformance. You will see how the application allows us to release the conforming parts into our stock warehouse, and we will follow the process to update our systems to send the nonconforming item back to the supplier. Our second shipment identifies a nonconformant because the 2D barcode containing the part history was not the industry standard ECC 200 formatted barcode, so we immediately declare this part as counterfeit. Lastly, our third part will require additional research into the history of the e-pedigree in order to authenticate the part. Our objective here is to quickly review each quarantine part and examine the possible resolutions, each in line with the National Defense Authorization Act, NDAA Part 818. In our first example of possible counterfeiting, we have a shipment with multiple items. Shipments don't always contain a single part. More often than not, tens or hundreds of the same item may be packaged together. This could be commodities such as toilet paper or rations. It could also be something cyber-related such as a reel of computer memory chips. Here, we decided to show something operational such as a set of bolts. In this instance, we can show how we would handle a partial nonconformance. It seems that in a quantity of 10, we have received one item that is different from the others. As we can see, the system is expecting the same zinc material. If we use a little common sense, Occam's razor tells us that the most likely cause of this discrepancy is human error. The bolts look the same, they simply have a different coating. I'm guessing that this is simply a human error somewhere down the line, and the wrong bolts were placed in the wrong bag. Though this shipment does contain a nonconformance, it's only a partial nonconformance. The system allows us to release the conforming parts into our stock warehouse, and we will follow the process to update our systems and send the nonconforming items back to the supplier. The shipment then gets split into 2 cartons. The nonconforming bag of bolts remains quarantined, while the remaining 9 bags get moved to an authenticated shelf. The part procurement screen automatically updates the status of the part from quarantine to authenticated. Let's begin by examining our non-conforming flight stick controller that is scheduled for repair in Hangar 1, Base C. This controller was identified as non-conformant because the 2D barcode containing the part history was not the industry standard ECC 200 formatted barcode. This part was manufactured from a trusted supplier, and all trusted suppliers must conform to industry standards for barcoding. Right now, we're unable to determine the root cause of this non-conformance, so we'll immediately declare it as counterfeit. When we receive a part that we believe to be counterfeit, according to Section 818 of the counterfeit legislation, it is the receiving organization's responsibility to alert the supplier of that part that they have received a non-conforming part. The supplier then has 60 days in which to report non-conformance to GIDEP, the Government Industry Data Exchange Program. Finally, we have a side stick controller that appears to have a non-conformance pertaining to the component makeup of the part itself. The 8-way directional hat is a different color than expected. Using our tablet or desktop, we can open our email and search for this part number. Here, we come across an email referencing this part. The email is sent from a trusted source and discusses a modification to the trim switch on the HOTAS flight stick in question. It states that as of August 1, 2011, the part began to be manufactured using a trim switch with an alternate matte finish. It goes on to explain the root cause being a realignment of certified suppliers, and sets the expectation that this new configuration should be in the rotation within 6 to 12 months. This is excellent documentation, and may be just what is required in order to authenticate this part. The next step will be to try and link this research to this part. This can be done by using the Contact Memory button on the bottom of the part. The information stored in this button is displayed in the application. Here we can see the maintenance history for this part. It appears as though the repair was done on this part in August 21st, 2012 by Jeff Perkins. The thumbstick panel was replaced at that time, and it would make complete sense that during that replacement a newly manufactured point-of-view switch was used. We will gladly override this part and release it to authentication. Here, we will move the part to the authenticated shelf, and it can now make its way to a repair. The part procurement screen automatically updates the status of the part from quarantined to authenticated. When entering quarantine inspection, we retrieve location and state data from our internal warehouse management system. We will then investigate a myriad of custom data sources to research any potential discrepancies. If the item is deemed non-conformant or counterfeit, the trusted supplier will interface with GuideUp, and we will make a note in our qualified supplier list. If we are able to clear the part, we will then integrate with our internal ePedigree inspection system to manage the inspection process. This information will be updated in our warehouse management system, and the part will become authenticated. That's all for now. We hope you enjoyed this video, and we'd like to invite you to round out your education by viewing the remaining videos in this series. On behalf of Fujitsu Global Defense, we'd like to thank you for your time and have a nice day.